My name is Clara Jensen, 33 years old, and I'm currently standing outside the glass doors of my brother's wedding, clutching a gift wrapped in ivory paper and a blood-red ribbon. I'm not supposed to be here. In fact, I was explicitly told not to come. "Don't cause a scene, Clara," my mother had warned, eyes darting across the kitchen like someone might hear. "Just let him have his day," she added, as if I hadn't spent years picking up after his messes. But now I'm watching the man who banned me from his wedding, my own blood, tear open a gift labeled with my name, in front of 300 guests. He freezes. The smile dies on his lips. His new wife leans in. The box doesn't explode. No glitter bomb, no cruel prank. Just a letter. One sheet. My handwriting. And suddenly, the color drains from his face like champagne down a drain. He looks up. He knows. Who gave him that? I whisper to myself, throat tight, heart hammering against my ribs. Because I had handed that gift to his best man, right before I turned away and left the venue. But apparently, curiosity got the better of him. And now he's holding the very thing he tried to shut out. Before I show you what was in that box, and why my brother, my only sibling, would go so far as to cut me out of the biggest day of his life, let me take you back to the moment this entire twisted chain reaction started. Because it wasn't about one wedding, it was about everything that came before. If you've ever been the black sheep of your family, the one who's always silenced, always told to stay quiet for the sake of peace, then you're going to want to hear this. And if you've ever wanted just one moment of justice, you'll want to stick with me till the end. Subscribe if you've ever been made to feel invisible, because I'm done being quiet. It started a year ago. Maybe longer, if I'm being honest. The first red flag was small, like most betrayals. It was when Mason, my brother, forgot to tell me he got engaged. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it from his fiancée's Instagram, a photo of them in Greece. She had her hand up with the ring, and the caption read, "He finally made it official, can't wait to become a Parker." Except, Parker isn't her last name. It's mine. It's our last name. My phone exploded. Cousins, old classmates, even my ex. "Why didn't you tell me Mason proposed? Are you guys okay? Thought you two were close." We used to be, until Mason met her, Kylie, and somehow I became inconvenient. I tried to let it go. I called. I congratulated. I sent flowers. I tried to play the role of the cool, unbothered sister. But things only got worse. Let me pause for a second and ask you this. Have you ever watched someone slowly erase you? Not in an obvious way. No fights, no screaming, just fewer invitations, fewer phone calls, like they're tightening the circle and making sure you're just outside it. That was me. Family dinners without me. Group chats where I was mysteriously removed. Sorry, must have been a glitch. And then, the wedding planning started. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. I wasn't asked to give a toast. I wasn't even told the date until I saw the invite, sent to our parents' house. Not mine. When I confronted Mason, he looked me in the eyes and said, "Clara, this wedding is about positivity and moving forward. You bring a lot of emotional weight. Kylie just wants peace, okay?" Peace. That was their word for erasing the truth. Because I knew things. Things Mason didn't want anyone else to know. And maybe that's when I knew. If I wasn't welcome in the wedding, I'd have to speak through it. So I wrote the letter. I wrapped it in satin paper. No threats, no drama, just truth. Truth tied in a red ribbon. I gave it to the best man with a smile. Told him it was a personal note for Mason. Open when you're ready. I didn't expect him to open it right there, in the middle of the reception. But maybe I did. Because sometimes, silence is a weapon. And the right words, spoken at the wrong time, can shatter everything. People say I'm the responsible one in the family. Not in the glamorous way, just in the quiet, dependable background kind of way. I'm the one who remembers birthdays, books the family cabin each summer, and organizes mom's medication when she forgets how to take it right. No one ever says thank you, but if I missed one thing, just one, everyone would notice. I'm a public school counselor. I work long hours in a city that's forgotten what gratitude looks like. Every day, I help kids navigate trauma, bullying, depression, loneliness, and then I come home to an apartment with a leaky faucet and bills stacked like a game of Jenga on my kitchen counter. But I love what I do. I love helping people find their voice. Ironically, I never learned how to use mine. Not in my own family, anyway. Mason was always the favorite. It's not even a bitter thing to say. It's just true. He was the golden boy, varsity athlete, marketing exec by 25, the type who walks into a room and gets handed a microphone and applause before saying a word. I don't blame him for it, but I do blame him for pretending he didn't know. He and I were close once. When we were kids, he'd sneak into my room when there were storms. He used to say I was the only one who made him feel calm. When our parents fought, he'd sit on my bed and ask if things were going to be okay. And I'd lie. Of course I'd lie. That's what big sisters do when the world feels unsafe. You anchor it. Even in college, we'd call each other weekly. I remember staying up one night until 2 a.m. helping him rewrite his resume. He got that job in Boston because of that resume. He never said that part out loud. But I knew. The first real shift happened about 2 years ago, right after Mason met Kylie. She was elegant, sure, polished. But there was something calculated about her warmth. Like every smile had an agenda behind it. At our first family dinner together, she gave me one of those polite, frozen-over compliments. You must be the therapist. So nice you get to do something that helps people emotionally. The way she said emotionally made me feel like I was a hobbyist, not a professional. Like I played with feelings instead of dealing with them. I brushed it off. One awkward dinner doesn't define a person, right? But then the small things began piling up, like frost on a window pane, each one subtle, ignorable on its own. But together, they painted a picture of someone slowly writing me out of the frame. At family events, she'd whisper things to Mason in front of me and then giggle when I asked what was funny. She started organizing just the cousins' hangouts and somehow forgot to include me. She began calling my mom, Mom, and referring to herself as the daughter she never had. I'd sit across the table, smiling tightly, nodding like it didn't sting. I never said a word. I told myself it was growing pains, that she was new, and I needed to make space. But the space I made, they filled it with silence. Still, I tried. I bought her a thoughtful birthday gift after casually hearing her say she loved lavender candles. I offered to help plan the bridal shower. She never responded to the email. I even booked her favorite bakery for her engagement brunch. She canceled it, said she wanted something more chic. Mason didn't say thank you. He didn't even notice. It was like being erased in slow motion. Like every contribution I made was invisible. Every effort discarded the moment it passed out of my hands. And the thing is, I never asked for a spotlight. I never wanted center stage. I just wanted a seat at the table. But even that, it seemed, was too much. Then came the final blow. I got the wedding invite through a text. From my mother. Not from Mason. Not from Kylie. It was a forwarded screenshot. An image of a floral PDF. No personal message. No, can't wait to celebrate with you. Just, thought you should have this. I read the details twice, heart pounding. Because under the guest list and seating section, my name wasn't there. I texted Mason. Hey, am I invited to your wedding? He replied 3 hours later. Clara, I think it's best you sit this one out. There's been a lot of tension, and I really don't want drama. It's Kylie's big day. I hope you understand. No, I didn't understand, but I didn't argue either. Because somewhere deep down, I'd seen it coming. People don't just snap, they fade. They fade you first. But I wasn't going to let that be the final chapter. Not after everything I gave. Not after the way they all watched me shrink just to keep the peace. So I stopped trying to be the invisible sister, and I started writing the letter. Not out of revenge, but out of relief, because someone, somewhere, needed to say the truth out loud. Even if it was sealed in a box and tied in silence. It happened at the rehearsal dinner. No, I wasn't invited, but I went anyway. Not to the event. God, no. To the restaurant, a high-end place downtown, with valet parking and white pillars so tall you'd think ambition built the place. I wasn't there to make a scene. I just wanted to drop something off. A gift bag with a handwritten card for Mason. I figured, if I left it with the hostess, he'd get it after the dinner. Something private, quiet, thoughtful. But as I handed it over, I heard her laugh. Kylie. She was right near the entrance, in full makeup and a designer jumpsuit, holding a glass of champagne and surrounded by a semicircle of guests, all of them buzzing around her like she was some kind of royalty. She clocked me immediately. "Clara," she called, with a tone too loud, too bright. "I thought you weren't coming tonight." I froze. Heads turned. And suddenly I was on stage in a play I didn't audition for. "I'm just dropping something off for Mason," I said quietly, lifting the bag. "I'll be out of your way in 2 seconds." She stepped forward and smiled. "Oh, that's sweet," she said, voice dripping honey and vinegar. "But we're actually trying to keep the night drama free. You understand, right? Big day tomorrow." The circle laughed. Not loud, not cruel, but enough. I felt my ears burn. Felt the hostess hesitate, unsure whether to take the bag or not. I glanced past Kylie, looking for Mason. He was there, by the bar, drink in hand. He saw me. I know he saw me. He looked embarrassed. But he didn't move. He didn't wave me over. He didn't even smile. And that's when I knew. He wasn't just allowing her to erase me. He was helping her do it. Kylie turned back to her guests and said, "I guess not everyone understands boundaries." I don't remember how I walked out. I just remember clutching that gift bag so tight the handles snapped. I remember the shame and how it didn't even feel hot. It felt cold, like a final switch flipped. They didn't just exclude me, they humiliated me, in public, on purpose. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. "FYI, you're not on the guest list tomorrow. Security has names. Don't try anything." No sign-off. No clue if it was Kylie or Mason. But the message was clear. "You are not welcome. Not even near the building." I sat in bed, staring at my ceiling. The letter I'd written weeks ago folded neatly on my nightstand. I'd planned to give it to Mason after the wedding. A goodbye letter. A "this is how much you hurt me" letter. But now? Now I saw it differently. Because when someone pushes you out of the light, sometimes the only justice is to hand them a mirror. And I had a secret. One I'd kept for years. One Mason begged me not to tell anyone. He was 19 when it happened. A freshman in college, partying too hard, driving too fast. He totaled a car. Not just his, but the company vehicle from his summer job. Drunk. No license. He should have gone to jail. But I lied for him. I told the officer I was driving. Sober. Responsible. I took the fall. It kept his record clean. It kept his job intact. He promised me he'd never forget it. He said he'd owe me for life. Guess how long that lasted? What I wrote in that letter wasn't blackmail. It wasn't revenge porn. It was the truth, written with surgical precision. I reminded him of the night I protected him. I laid out, step by step, the cost of my silence. How I paid fines I couldn't afford. How I had to take a semester off because of legal fees. How our parents called me reckless, never knowing I saved their son. And then I ended the letter with this. "You erased me to protect your image. But I already did that for you. You don't get to bury me twice." I put the letter in a silk envelope. I tied it with a red ribbon. And I placed it in a gift box. White, clean, elegant. I didn't write anything explosive on the outside. Just, "For Mason, from Clara." The next day, I went to the wedding venue. I didn't try to get inside. I waited outside near the staff entrance until I saw his best man heading in, half distracted, tux jacket slung over one arm. I smiled, told him I was dropping off a personal gift Mason forgot. He didn't question it. And then I walked away. I wasn't supposed to see what happened next. But someone recorded it. The moment. It made its way to me through a cousin, then a friend, then 3 separate DMs on Instagram. It happened during the speeches. Mason was seated next to Kylie at the head table, champagne glass in hand, glowing like a magazine ad. They'd just cut the cake. He saw the box on the gift table and apparently got curious. "From Clara," he read aloud. Laughter. "Oh, wow, she did send something?" someone joked. He opened the box, lifted the envelope, read the first line, and everything in his body changed. His face cracked, not in a big, dramatic way, but in that subtle, haunting way that only someone who knows they're caught can crumble. He didn't finish reading. He stood up, walked out, and the reception turned into a whispering wildfire. Kylie followed him 10 seconds later. People kept glancing toward the door. No one smiled for a long time after that. And me? I was already home, watching a movie, phone buzzing, face calm. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do to someone who erased you is remind them you never needed the spotlight to begin with. After the rehearsal dinner humiliation, after the text warning me to stay away, after I saw my own brother's eyes slide right past me like I was a stranger, something inside me went still. Not broken. Not even angry. Just still. Like the silence before a storm, or the moment before a diver pushes off the ledge. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream into a pillow or vent to friends. Instead, I opened my laptop and started making a list. It was quiet, methodical, a list of every time I'd chosen to protect Mason when I didn't have to. Every cover story, every lie, every favor. And one by one, I traced them back to their root. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed clarity. You see, people think power comes from confrontation, but it doesn't. Power is the space between action and reaction. It's the moment you realize you could burn someone to the ground and choose not to. Yet. I didn't show up at the wedding in a dramatic red dress. I didn't storm the aisle or crash the reception. No, I played it differently. I went to brunch. A quiet place on the east side, my favorite cafe. The one with oat milk lattes and that tiny garden in the back. While Mason was posing for wedding photos, I was sipping coffee and flipping through a legal pad. Because that's the other thing I did that week. I called a lawyer, not to sue, not to file anything, just to ask questions. Like, what are the limits of a confidentiality agreement if no NDA was ever signed? Like, could a written confession of criminal behavior from years ago, say, an old DUI someone else covered for, be used in future court proceedings? Like, what happens if someone's professional license or public-facing job depends on a clean moral record? The answers were enlightening. Not incriminating, not threatening, just informative. And I held those facts like cards close to my chest. I also called a former colleague of Mason's, someone he ghosted when he got promoted, someone I'd always gotten along with. Let's call him Darren. We caught up like old friends. I asked how his startup was going. He said they were looking for someone with a background in crisis communication and family therapy. I sent my resume that night. Not because I needed a new job, but because the idea of quietly stepping up while Mason tried to erase me felt poetic in a way no outburst ever could. That whole week, I stayed off social media. Didn't post, didn't stalk the wedding photos, didn't text anyone in the family. I went for walks. I took long showers. I journaled. And in that space, something shifted. I realized that being erased by Mason had freed me from something I hadn't even seen. The performance of being a good sister, of being the fixer, the one who absorbs other people's damage and repackages it as grace. I wasn't her anymore. And without that mask, I finally had room to be someone else. someone who protects her peace more than her reputation. A few days after the wedding, I got a voicemail. It was from my mother. Her voice was hushed, but urgent. Clara, I'm not sure what was in that gift, but Mason's been off. He left early from the honeymoon. He's not answering calls. Kylie's upset. Please tell me you didn't do anything. I didn't call her back. Because for the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. And that silence? That unreadable pause? That's what scared them most. I did send one thing, though. A copy of the police report from the night of the accident. Redacted, anonymized. To myself. Filed and time-stamped. Just in case. Not because I planned to use it, but because the knowledge that I could was enough. I was no longer the one without leverage. I was no longer at their mercy. I had options now. Paths. Power. And all of it was earned through quiet resilience. 1 week later, I got an email from Darren. He offered me the position, double the salary, remote flexibility, mental health advocacy with real reach. I accepted. That same day, Mason finally texted, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. I wasn't interested in closure served on his schedule. Because something happens when you stop begging to be seen. You start seeing yourself more clearly. You start choosing where to place your energy and where never to return it. I never told anyone what was in the letter. I didn't have to, because the point wasn't to destroy Mason. It was to remind him what I was capable of if pushed. And in that small, still power, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Not from him, from needing him. 2 weeks pass. The wedding photos begin circulating. Hashtags, reels, grainy Instagram videos with sparkler exits and forced smiles. People tag me. I don't engage. In one video, Mason's smile looks strained. His hand is on Kylie's waist, but his eyes are somewhere else. Tight. Unfocused. Maybe that letter hit harder than he expected. Maybe he thought I'd bluff. But here's the thing about people like Mason. They mistake silence for weakness. What they never understand is that real power doesn't shout. It whispers and waits. The day the revenge lands isn't loud. It's a Tuesday. Overcast. Quiet. I'm on a Zoom onboarding call with my new team, my new role, my new start. We're talking strategy for a youth mental health initiative when I see a text light up my screen. Mason just got put on leave. What happened? I ignore it. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzes again. A different number. This time, it's a voicemail. From Kylie. The tone is unfamiliar. It's brittle. Unraveling. "Clara, I don't know what you did or why. But the board called. Mason's reputation is ruined. You need to fix this. You need to talk to him. But I don't. Because I didn't do anything. I just mailed something. Not to the police, not to the press, to the company where Mason works. A multinational firm with strict ethics clauses for executive leadership. Inside the envelope, a notarized copy of the old police report. The real one. The one with Mason's name, not mine. Along with a statement from me, dated, typed, and signed, clarifying that I'd taken the blame for a DUI he committed when he was 19, under pressure from family with no legal representation. I didn't accuse. I disclosed. Because his promotion to regional VP required a security clearance. And in the application, Mason had checked a little box that said, "Have you ever committed a crime, even if charges were dropped or sealed?" He said no. And I simply corrected the record. When the company HR called me for a statement, I was calm, polite. I said I didn't want to ruin his career, only to protect my own name. That I'd carried the consequences of his actions for years. And now I was releasing myself from that weight. No threats, no malice. Just the truth. Let out at the exact right moment. Because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about correction. It's showing someone who thought they were untouchable that their actions do have consequences. Eventually. The fallout spreads fast. Mason is put on administrative leave while the company reviews internal documentation. His name quietly disappears from their website. The PR team scrubs mentions of his wedding sponsorships from a recent campaign. And while I never see his face on the news, I do see something else. A LinkedIn update, posted 3 weeks later. Stepping back from leadership to realign priorities and spend more time with family. Polished, predictable, hollow. But I know what it really means. It means he lost everything he built on my silence. And I didn't scream. I didn't post. I didn't even tell a soul. I just acted, strategically, legally, and with total composure. The second part of the revenge comes softer, subtle. I get a call from a foundation I'd applied to months ago, a grant for community programs supporting girls in underserved neighborhoods. They approve it, $100,000 in funding. That same week, I'm asked to speak at a women's empowerment panel downtown. Guess who's listed as a guest on the RSVP list? Kylie. She's no longer Kylie Parker. She's back to her maiden name. Her Instagram bio reads, "Healing, growth, new beginnings." No photos of Mason. Not one. I don't go up to her. I don't smirk or gloat. I take the mic. I speak about boundary setting, about reclaiming your story, about the courage it takes to stop protecting people who harm you just because they share your DNA. And from the back of the room, I see her look down, fold her arms, shift in her seat, not because she knows I'm talking about her, but because she knows I'm no longer talking around her. That's the difference. A few nights later, I get a knock at my door. It's late. Rain tapping against the windows. I open it to find Mason. No umbrella. No coat. Just him, damp and unsure, holding a bottle of wine like peace can be bottled and offered without cost. "Can we talk?" he asks. I look at him. Really look. For the first time, I don't see the golden boy. I see a man who built his castle on other people's silence and can't understand why the foundation crumbled. "You already read everything I had to say," I tell him. He nods. I wish it didn't go this way." I tilt my head. "No, you wish I stayed quiet." And I close the door. Not with drama, not with rage, but with dignity. Because the most powerful revenge isn't the moment they fall. It's when you no longer care if they ever stand again. It happens at a family gathering. The first since the wedding. A belated birthday dinner for our mother. Planned by Mason, ironically. I wasn't invited directly. My name was added to the group text by one of our aunts, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, of the unspoken fracture. I decide to go. Not because I want to see Mason, but because I don't owe him my absence anymore. And I'm not afraid of being visible. The restaurant is the same one where the rehearsal dinner took place. A cruel, poetic coincidence. I arrive in a simple black dress, hair tied up, no makeup, but confidence sharp enough to make people glance twice. Mason's already there, seated at the end of the table, pressed smile, sleeves rolled to the elbow, laughing just a little too loudly. I watch him catch sight of me. His expression doesn't crack, not fully, but the laughter dies. He shifts in his seat, adjusting like the air got tighter. I take my seat. Not near him. Not far. Right where I belong. The table chatters around me. Light. Avoidant. Small talk. Everyone pretending not to feel the electric thread running through the center of the room. Then, during dessert, Mason stands. He taps his glass with a spoon, softly. A few people turn. He clears his throat, nods toward Mom. "I just wanted to say, thank you, Mom, for always holding this family together." Pause. "And I know this year's been intense, but I really believe we're stronger because of what we've come through." My fork stops. Because that word, that's how he always shields himself. By smearing his mess across the whole family until no one can trace the stain. He glances at me. Just a flicker. I know not everyone here agrees with every decision I've made, but I did what I thought was right at the time. A beat. I just hope, moving forward, we can all learn to forgive. The word lands like a stone in a quiet lake. A few people nod. One cousin murmurs, "Yeah," like a nervous tick. I set my napkin down slowly, and I stand. Not fast, not dramatically, just deliberately. Mason goes still. Can I say something? I ask, my voice calm. Mom hesitates, then nods. I turn to the table, hands lightly resting on the back of my chair. I'm glad we're talking about forgiveness, I begin, because for a long time, I thought forgiveness meant forgetting, letting things slide, keeping peace by swallowing truth. I glance at Mason. That's what I did for years. I kept peace by disappearing. He looks away. I stopped doing that recently, and I won't apologize for it. Silence. Not the awkward kind. The kind that fills the room with gravity. I don't cry. I don't raise my voice. I let the weight of presence do the speaking. Mason's hand tightens around his water glass. He doesn't look at me. He looks at Mom, as if asking her to reel me back in. But she doesn't. I continue. There's a quote I love. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. I pause. I've stopped tolerating. Another silence. And then, with a soft, almost playful smile, I tilt my head. Mason, I say, echoing the same tone he once used with me. Condescending. Performative. I really do hope you find peace. He flinches. It's the same line he used when he disinvited me from his wedding. This is about peace, Clara. Now it's inverted. A full circle moment, handed back to him without force, just grace sharpened into precision. He opens his mouth, then closes it. Because what can he say? That I lied? That I overreacted? That I ruined him? He'd have to admit why. He'd have to say the quiet parts out loud. And Mason never had the stomach for that. The table stays quiet. No one rushes to change the subject. People aren't stupid. They don't know the full story, but they feel it. They feel the shift in power, the transfer of control from the loudest person in the room to the clearest. I sit down again, sip my water, say nothing more. And in that silence, Mason crumbles. Not visibly, not all at once. But his posture collapses inward. His smile fades. And for the first time in years, he looks small, like someone whose reflection finally caught up with them. After the dinner, as people gather their coats and say their goodbyes, he approaches me. Alone. There's no audience, no performance, just him. He stands there for a moment, eyes searching mine. I didn't think you'd show up, he says. I raise an eyebrow. You made a habit of not inviting me. He swallows. Everything's been falling apart. I nod. I noticed. I don't know how to fix it. My voice is soft, but firm. You're not supposed to fix me, Mason. You're supposed to face yourself. He looks down. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. A long pause. And then I say the one thing I've been saving. Not to wound, but to release. You taught me how to disappear, Mason. But I taught myself how to come back. I turn and walk past him. Not in anger. Not in triumph. In freedom. Because the final confrontation isn't a war. It's a mirror. And the most devastating thing you can do to someone who refused to see you is finally let them see themselves. A week after the dinner, I find myself at the edge of a lake I used to visit as a teenager. It's quiet, early. The kind of stillness you only get before the world fully wakes up. The water doesn't ripple. The wind doesn't rush. Everything just holds its breath. I'm holding a small envelope in my hands. A letter. Not for Mason. For myself. It's the original one I wrote. The first draft of the one I gave him. The one filled with all the anger, the sadness, the things I didn't say out loud for years. I never sent this one because it wasn't written to free him. It was written to free me. And now, I don't need it anymore. I read it one last time. Not to remember the pain, but to honor how far I've come. Then I fold it gently and place it into a shallow ceramic bowl I brought with me. I light the corner with a match and watch it burn. The flame is quiet, focused. It consumes the words slowly, delicately, like it knows they've already been released. Ash flutters into the breeze, scattering into the lake's edge. And just like that, the final weight lifts. In the weeks that follow, life doesn't explode with joy. It settles. It softens. I return to work with new clarity, new confidence. My voice doesn't tremble in meetings anymore. I start teaching a small evening class for young women interested in trauma-informed counseling. The seats fill up faster than I expected. One of the girls stays after class one night and says, "I don't know why, but I feel like I can tell you anything. Like you've been through it." I smile and nod. Because she's right. And the difference is, I no longer carry shame about that. I still get updates about Mason, though I don't ask for them. He's taken a lower-level job. Not fired, but repositioned. Kylie moved out a month ago. They're in a break, whatever that means. And while part of me feels the echo of old wounds when I hear his name, I don't live in those wounds anymore. They're just scars now. Closed, quiet, healed. Sometimes I think closure looks like a big confrontation, like slamming doors or final speeches, but more often it looks like peace, like not needing a response, like walking away without checking to see if they're watching. One afternoon, I get a text from my mom. He asked if you'd ever forgive him. I stare at the message for a long moment. Then I reply, I already have. But forgiveness isn't the same as re-entry. There's no follow-up. And that, too, is a kind of peace. Months pass. One rainy morning, I walk by the bakery where Kylie once canceled her brunch reservation. The sign on the window says, "Now hiring, assistant manager." I walk in and order coffee. The girl behind the counter smiles and says she likes my umbrella. We chat for a bit. She asks what I do. I help people find themselves again, I say. And it surprises me how natural that answer feels. Because that's what I did. For myself. I didn't win some war. I didn't climb some ladder. I returned to myself. One quiet step at a time. I never framed my story as revenge again. Because it wasn't. It was restoration. I didn't get justice by tearing him down. I found it by standing up. By saying, you don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to erase me. You don't get to thrive on a version of me that you invented just to feel big. And I didn't need an audience to say that. I just needed myself. Now? I walk into rooms without shrinking. I speak without over-explaining. I love without begging to be loved back the same way. And I don't carry the letter anymore. Because I am the letter now. A living testimony. Of grace. Of boundary. Of becoming whole.